Welcome to the Cowbell Kingdom Road Reaction Postgame Show, where the Sacramento Kings fall to the Houston Rockets by a final of 115 to 111. This was a game for the ages. A game for the ages. James Harden goes nuts, drops a career-high 51. DeMarcus Cousins gets his, I think it's his second career triple-double. An incredible night by DeMarcus Cousins. I am James Ham. He is Rui Thomas. Say hello, Rui.
Hello.
There's Rui. All right, we got some stuff to talk about here on the Cowbell Kingdom Road Reaction Postgame Show. Absolutely wonderful game in Houston if you like offense and no defense. All right, so the Sacramento Kings, they do fall to 26-48 on the season. They're now 8-14 under George Karl, and they only have 8 games remaining in the 2014-2015 season. They would have to go 6-2 to get Karl back to the 800. Oh, no, they can't even do that. They'd have to go 7-1, right, to get him back to 500 on the season. I don't think that is going to happen, but wow, Rui, what are your initial thoughts on James Harden's 51 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists? Just an incredible night for Harden.
He was all over the place. We saw him get a few open looks early, and he took advantage of those looks, from behind the three-point arc. And then from there, there was nothing Ben McLemore or Derek Williams or Nick Stauskas could do to slow him down. He was bombing away from downtown, Euro stepping his way to the basket, drawing plenty of and ones. Definitely fired up, overshadowed Cousins' performance basically. And he missed those 2 free throws near the end, but at that point he already had his career high, 51 points. Absolutely dominant performance, and definitely supports those MVP chants.
Yeah, how do you overshadow an incredible night like what Cousins had? My goodness, Cousins goes off for 24 points, 21 rebounds, 10 assists, gets a triple-double, 6 blocks, 3 steals. He does have 5 turnovers, but holy cow, DeMarcus Cousins was a beast. He was a beast in the post. The 6 blocks were huge. He had 5 at the half. He probably could have had a few more. But the Kings really tried to limit what Houston did in the paint tonight. They gave up the 3-point shot, which was very apparent. I know at halftime, Vance Wahlberg said on the halftime show to Katie Christensen, our game plan is to stop the paint and give up the 3. Against Houston, you have to stop one or the other. You can't give up both. That was Vance Wahlberg, Sacramento Kings assistant coach. The Kings gave up 18 of 40. 40 3-point attempts. It was even, the first half disparity was even worse. It almost looked like the Kings were going to let Houston shoot themselves way ahead and then shoot themselves way behind with the 3 ball. Is that what it looked like to you?
Definitely. The Rockets live and die by the 3 ball. We know that. They lead the NBA in makes and attempts. So the Kings knew the game plan coming in. The Rockets have, they've done the same game plan the 2 games prior this season. And I would say the Kings' perimeter defense did improve today, but by the second half, they're still getting, beaten transition, and when they're, playing their defenses in the half-court sets, James Harden and Trevor Ariza are just rising over these guys.
Yeah, you bring up Trevor Ariza. Trevor was a guy that really launched a ton of threes. He shot them. In that second quarter, it was crazy. Houston went up by 19, and then the Kings caught all the way back up. Trevor Ariza goes 6 of 14 from 3 on the night, but I know at one point he was 4 of 8. He just kept chucking, and it got a little wild. It got a little loose. Jason Terry goes 1 of 7 from downtown. Just an atrocious night. 8 of 9 for Harden, which was just incredibly dominant. But this was such a wild and crazy game. What are your thoughts on giving up the 3 ball in order to stop the paint against a team like this?
Well, based on results from the last few months of the season, I would say that's a pretty bad strategy, because the Kings have lived and died by the opponent 3 ball, and they've been getting blasted behind the arc. But today, again, it was a game of runs. We saw the Rockets get out to I believe, 9 of 16 start from behind the arc. They cooled off to close out the second when the Kings made their big run, and the Kings held the Rockets 36% in that quarter. A lot of that, just taking those long bombs. But then we see in the third quarter, the Rockets go 7 of 14 in the second half from behind the arc. And those are, you can't trade twos for threes. I'm not a math major, but that's not going to work. And, it's cost the Kings like we saw in Atlanta and, plenty of other games. You can't allow NBA players to hit those shots, that can be high percentage for them.
Yeah, let's look at the numbers here. Houston again goes 18 to 40. So what did they score? 48 points from behind the arc, or is that more than that?
54.
54 from behind the arc. The Kings scored 21. So quick math to me, they got outscored from behind the arc by 33. But here, check out this stat. The Kings in the paint outscored Houston 72 points in the paint to just 42 for Houston. I mean, those are incredible stats. How do the Kings go? How do you score 72 points in the paint against a team like this, especially with Terrence Jones having all those block shots? Joey Dorsey is just, I don't know what Joey Dorsey does, but beat the living tar out of people. This was a strange game. All right, let's get to some of the other numbers, Rui. To me, Omri Caspi had a really strong showing tonight. 18 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 steals, starting in place of Rudy Gay, who's still down with concussion-like symptoms. Rudy Gay might be out for a little while. He is having headaches, and he is going to fall fully under the NBA concussion protocol. I do think he'll play again this season, but he has to have 0 symptoms before he can even go through the whole protocol where they test him for everything. The one thing I'll point out with Caspi, 5 turnovers, and his turnovers were so incredibly costly, especially down the stretch. The Kings had a lot of turnovers down the stretch, and so did Houston, but still, what are your thoughts on Caspi's game tonight against his former team, the Houston Rockets?
Caspi came out really slow. We saw him go 0 for 4, and he got swatted twice by Terrence Williams, but crashed the boards really well, those 7 rebounds, overcame that really poor shooting start to finish 8 of 17. He did provide the spark in place of Gay. I thought it was pretty admirable. And, we saw him do his thing as far as leading the break, but we did see a few of those turnovers come that way. We actually saw another King feed Caspi late in the game, and it went off his leg. He definitely had some bonehead decisions, but he had some great defensive plays as well. He picked James Harden on isolation and picked up the loose ball and took it coast to coast for the dunk. So, you can't ask for much more from Caspi.
Yeah, I thought Caspi played well, especially in the second half. He got matched up against Harden, and I thought he played really well for about 20 seconds of the shot clock, and then it was like all bets were off. I'm going to get stupid. I thought he picked up a couple of stupid fouls. I just thought that he had moments of like really solid defense, and then epic fails at the end of that stint of strong defense. All right, let's get to some of these other numbers. Jason Thompson has a huge night, 16 and 10 off the bench in just 21 minutes of action. I thought he came in with energy. I thought he was all over the offensive glass. He finishes with 7 offensive rebounds. Very, very good night for Jason Thompson. Carl Landry gets the start tonight, goes 5 of 10 from the field, 10 points, 4 rebounds. He's sort of the forgotten guy. Again, he plays 21 minutes. Macklemore, 14 points. He looks solid. You can't really fault a guy who goes 6 of 10 from the field. He gave you 4 rebounds and 2 assists and a steal and a block. I thought he was solid. Ray McCallum, 14 points, 6 assists, 3 steals, 5 of 6 from the field. Both of those guys, both of the young guards, 2 of 3 from downtown. I thought this was really impressive. The Kings had seven players in double figures, including all 5 starters. Derek Williams kicks in 10. This is kind of how the Kings have to win, especially without Rudy Gay. Would you agree they need a team effort from everybody if they want to win any of these remaining games?
Oh, definitely, James. You need a monster effort from Cousins, and then you need 7 players in double figures. And Thompson, amazing game off the bench tonight. We saw him, playing center, but we also saw him play alongside Cousins when the Rockets brought in Josh Smith, and he definitely delivered. Dominating the offensive glass, ripping the ball out of Joey Dorsey or Clint Capella's hands. The 2 young guards in the backcourt, Macklemore, as far as James Harden goes, that might be his hardest cover in the NBA. But you obviously want to see improvement on the defensive end, but offensively, it's good to see him get things going. And Ray McCallum with the 5 for 5 shooting start that came out of nowhere. He had a good game, although his miss was crucial in the end because he pulled up for a wide open three and it clanked really bad and went to Harden and gave the Rockets 2 more points, which came down to cost Kings in the end.
Yeah, the Kings easily could have won this game. I thought it was really interesting. I'll say this, DeMarcus Cousins, you could see in the third quarter, late third quarter, he knew where he was as far as assists. He knew he was really close to a triple-double. How do I know that? I know that because he passed to Jason Thompson in the post, and Jason Thompson went up and scored. That's how you know that DeMarcus Cousins knows he's close to a triple-double because he's trying to get assists any way he can. Normally, you would not see him make that pass to Thompson. I thought Thompson had some great post moves. This is a team that doesn't match up well against Thompson because he does have, tremendous size, 6'11", 250, a big player. All right, let's get to let's get to a couple of the numbers before we get to our keys to the game. Kings 57 rebounds to 42 for the Houston Rockets. 30 assists, 24 for the Houston Rockets. These are all really impressive numbers. They did get Houston had 14 steals, the Kings had 9, which isn't horrible. But overall, I thought the Kings did a solid job. 7 of 14 from behind the arc, 50% from the field. They had 96 shot attempts tonight, 48 of 96. That's really crazy in a regulation game to see that many shot attempts. And that's just sort of the frenetic pace of this game. It was pretty wild. It was up and down. It was entertaining. Kings trailed by as many as 19. They actually had 3-point lead in this. It just seems like the Kings kept coming back in this game. Was this a game where you saw some resiliency out of a team that really is playing for nothing, Rui?
Oh, definitely. I mean, there were so many runs in this game when we all believed the Kings were out, whether it was that early second quarter run or the fourth quarter run when the Rockets got up double digits and the Kings came back to climb. I don't believe they allowed the Rockets to score a field goal in the final few minutes of the game. One thing I would like to point out, the free throw shooting tonight, again, it was atrocious, 8 for 16. Considering how committed the Kings were to attacking the paint, I'm surprised that they didn't draw more free throws. But, Cousins had an awful night at the line today, 2 for 6. Derek Williams, he went 0 for 2 from the line. He had a really cold start as well compared to Caspi. So I mean, yeah, you make 4 of those free throws, the game's tied, right? You can't going 8 for 16 from the free throw line is unacceptable.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree with you completely. In a 4-point game, you miss 8 free throws. That's absolutely crucial. And for this season, the Kings almost outshoot everyone at the line. I mean, tonight 8 of 16, but the Rockets 15 of 25. So you lose 7 points there, and you lose 33 points at the 3-point line. Next thing you're looking at a 40-point deficit you need to make up between 3-point attempts and free throw attempts, and that is absolutely brutal. I don't know that anyone can make that up. That's tough. All right, let's get to our 3 keys to the game. Let's start with defending the arc. What did you see in this game that worked and didn't work? Because I'm going to give the Kings a little bit of a pass here. I think they did need to defend a little bit better behind the arc. Harden just hit some mystical shots, but some of the other guys didn't do anything. I mean, their bench goes 1 of 6 from behind the arc. Jason Terry 1 of 7. This was one of those games where you kind of saw, the give and take of the 3-point shooting, and it's against a really tough team that likes to shoot from the perimeter. What are your thoughts on this? This defending the arc key, Rui?
Well, I think the Kings are not going to figure out how to get back, on the break this season. It's going to take a whole off season, watching film and practicing to get over this because the Kings, once again were awful when the Rockets got out and ran. We saw them set up corner 3 after 3, and for the most part, Ariza converted those threes. Jason Terry didn't convert those threes. The half-court defense on the perimeter was a lot better tonight, and we just saw Harden and Terrence Jones, line up a few feet behind the line and just, take these threes. And I think all the Kings could do was shake their head. I mean, obviously, this is when you lead the league in 3-point shooting, they're pretty good at it. So I guess they're confident taking those deep threes, and the Kings will have to live with them.
Yeah, I think that is exactly. I mean, this was a tight game. This was an entertaining game. I mean, you lose by 4 points against a team with 51 wins. It's a tough, hard-fought game, and you let them You let them do one thing specifically really well. I think the Kings could have played a little bit better defensively in the paint. I think they could have rotated a little bit better. I still, they get lost on switches. You saw it all night, especially Ariza. Like, I'm still wondering who was guarding Ariza because all 14 of those 3-point attempts were wide open. And, he hit 6 of them. He easily could have hit 8 of them, and next thing, or even 10 of them. And next thing you know, this isn't even a remotely close game. So let's get to our second key, which is floor spacing. Actually, I thought the Kings did an all right job of floor spacing. I think DeMarcus Cousins did a really nice job of finding open guys. The Kings actually hit quite a few shots. You go 7 of 14 from behind the arc, and I think that's solid enough. That's kind of where the Kings are. If you can get 50%, that's shocking. If you can get around 7 or 8 threes, that's really where this team kind of caps out. They're not much better than that on the season. So I thought the spacing was okay. I also know that Houston really collapsed the lane on Cousins. He only went 11 of 25 from the field. But I think that this is one of those things here where you're going to be okay. I mean, Cousins had 10 assists. How much more could you expect from him? What are your thoughts on the floor spacing key?
Yeah, I thought the floor spacing was pretty good. Yeah, you mentioned all those assists, 10 for Cousins and 30 for the team. He was dominant. Him and Thompson were dominating down low, and Landry was getting his offense in with those short little jumpers. So we saw the Kings set up on the outside, and for the most part, they delivered with their threes. They went 7 for 14 in the game, like you said, and they also went 5 for 8 in the second half. Outshot the Rockets as far as accuracy goes in the second half.
Yeah, I think the Kings hung tough as much as you could expect, especially without Rudy Gay. All right, let's get to this final key, which is the turnover specialist. The Sacramento Kings tonight turned the ball over 21 times. I'll circle this number: 27 points off of turnovers. The Rockets, 17 points, 20 points off of turnovers. So, 17 turnovers for the Rockets, 20 points off those turnovers. Again, there's another 7 points that the Kings are going to have a difficult time making up in a game like this. And you keep piling on these things, these reasons why the Kings were so far behind at certain points in this game. It really is a miracle that they came as close as they did in this game. And maybe there is something to this whole let the Rockets shoot from the outside, hope they don't catch complete fire. Maybe limit Harden and then let the rest of the guys shoot. I guess that might be something that we see up against this team in the playoffs. But what do you got for me on turnover specialists?
Both of these teams are very good at turning the ball over, and both of them are really good at allowing points off those turnovers. So, we got what we expected tonight. It was so sloppy. There were a lot of forced passes. There was, the over dribbling, some, questionable decisions where you were wondering, like, where is their head in the game. You talk about the high scoring. A lot of that was a result of the other team, helping them out. So, you want to see a better performance. The Kings have averaged 20 turnovers versus the Rockets this season. This was the worst turnover performance for the Rockets against the Kings this year. So they kind of negated each other, I would say.
All right, let's get to our MVP chatter. This is actually kind of easy. It's easy because James Harden won. He finishes with 51 points, 6 assists, 8 rebounds, 3 steals, 16 of 25 from the field. That's incredible. What did he shoot, like 64%? Yeah. 8 of 9 from behind the arc. 11 of 13 from the line. The 2 he missed are the 2 that would have given him points number 52 and 53 near the end of the game there. I thought Harden was just absolutely spectacular. The chance for MVP coming from the stands. For me, he is the MVP of the game. He's not the MVP of the season. My MVP of the season is Steph Curry. But James Harden is right there, especially when you consider that Dwight Howard has been out for much of the season. They lost Parsons during the offseason, so this is kind of a different team, and they still have 51 wins. Who is your MVP of this game tonight, Rui?
I'll go with Harden as well. It was an even performance by him. He scored 16 in the first quarter, 8 in the second, 17 in the third, and then just 10 in the fourth. He's predictable, right? We know he loves to isolate. I know you're not a big fan of his game, but because it's ugly, but I mean he makes it work. I mean Ben McLemore, I'm sure, studied up on Harden and couldn't do anything, along with the other Kings players until they started double teaming him late. I mean it was dominant. Yeah, playing without Howard, definitely the number one scoring option you can expect to see every night, and he delivered.
Yeah, I think he delivered too. I mean, he has something crazy like 97 points scored against the Sacramento Kings this season in 2 games. I mean, he is a very good player. I do think he isolates too much. I think he dribbles too much. I think he turns the ball over too much. But tonight, you really can't fault. I mean, he was spectacular. I mean, talk about, again, 64% from the field. The Kings gave him an inch, and he took a mile. And I thought that it was a uh, sort of a game for the ages. I just thought he was so incredibly impressive. And any other night, I mean, DeMarcus Cousins is going to win the MVP of the game. 24, 21, and 10 with this crazy 6 blocks and 3 steals. He did turn the ball over 5 times too, but really, I mean, Cousins was about as good as you could get, and that's after. I'm going to be honest with you. I thought DeMarcus Cousins walked through about the first 8 minutes of this game. He looked like he really didn't have much energy or much want. And then once the game started going, I saw sort of a flow from him that was really impressive. The way the Sacramento Kings get great is if DeMarcus Cousins, and the way that DeMarcus Cousins gets great and becomes like a Hall of Fame type player is if he figures out how to make his teammates better and figures out how to win. And I think we're right there where he's starting to say, okay, wait a sec, maybe I can do more to make my team better. And tonight is one of those performances where, like, oh my gosh, I mean, this is one of those stat lines that you see like once every 20 years. I mean, Harden, we see 51 points happen in a season. Even a guy like Mo Williams dropped 50. I mean, Corey Brewer's dropped 50. But this is one of those teams where one of those games where Cousins did something that only a handful of players in the history of the game can actually accomplish, and that's pretty special. So, all right, Rui, do you have any final thoughts on this game?
I mean, it was very exciting, and now the Kings head home and they'll get a chance to play a playoff spoiler against the Pelicans. I believe they're the ninth seed looking in right now for that last spot.
Yeah, I think the Kings wanted to play playoff spoiler at this point. I think they want to play. Let's hold on to that 6 seed. And I don't think the tank is fully on, but when DeMarcus Cousins sat out the last game, that was an indicator that the Kings are waving the white flag. We've had a busy week here in Sacramento. Some really crazy and interesting things. Chris Mullin is no longer with the Sacramento Kings. We will know more on that. I mean, he is now the head coach of St. John's University. Good for Chris Mullin. I think that's probably good for the Sacramento Kings as well. Way too many cooks in the kitchen here over the last couple of months. And Mullin was not on board with the George Karl hire, was not on board with the Vlade Divac hire. And so now he's not on board. And that is probably a good thing, again. Besides that, we have the excitement of Simbular. Simbular is on his way to Sacramento. He will be signing a 10-day contract with the Sacramento Kings. And unfortunately for David Ware, it looks like he will be replacing David Ware on the active roster. And David Ware's 10-day contract is up, and he will probably end up back with the Reno Bighorns. David Ware did get to play a little bit of early action in this game tonight. I don't think he scored. He hasn't scored in his NBA career. He does have, I think, an assist and a rebound, which is more than we can say for Royce White last season. Definitely a solid. He's a guy who's going to fight and be up and down throughout his career, trying to find a home in the NBA. Maybe that will be with the Sacramento Kings down the road as a stretch four, but we will have to see. All right, so Rui, when's our next game?
Friday.
Friday against the Pelicans, and then we've got another game on Sunday, correct?
Yes.
Look at that, an Easter Sunday game at home. Ugh, gonna have to cut that egg hunt short on Sunday. So that's going to do it for this edition of the Cowbell Kingdom Road Reaction postgame show. Sacramento Kings fall to the Houston Rockets 115-111. Incredible performances by both James Harden and DeMarcus Cousins. Fun game to watch. We will be back soon with more coverage of the Sacramento Kings. I am James Ham. Say goodnight, Rui.
Good night.
He is Rui Thomas. Thanks for tuning in to the Cowbell Kingdom Road Reaction post-game show.